When you hear Italian food, I bet you picture a giant mountain of spaghetti and meatballs, right? Maybe a heavy slice of pepperoni pizza and a bottomless basket of garlic bread. Well, today in this explainer, we are completely shattering that myth. We're going on a culinary journey to uncover the hyper-regional, deeply historical reality of true Italian dining. So let's get into it. Here is our menu for today. We'll start with the Italian food myth, then look at the North versus South divide. After that, we'll tackle the great pasta debate, dive into the kitchen of the poor, and finally, break down the actual anatomy of an authentic meal. Starting off with Section 1, the Italian food myth, and why it goes way beyond just pizza and pasta. Here is the absolute truth. Italian food as a single unified cuisine? It doesn't actually exist. It just doesn't. What we call Italian food is really this beautifully diverse collection of regional traditions. Honestly, if you travel just 2 or 3 hours in any direction across Italy, the food completely transforms. It's like a giant culinary puzzle where the dishes are heavily shaped by local history, the specific climate, and literally what grows in the dirt right outside their doors. From the outside looking in, pasta might just look like pasta everywhere, but the reality on the ground is wildly different depending on exactly where you stand. Take something as globally famous as pizza. It actually has a strict, hyper-regional identity. True Neapolitan pizza, born in Naples down in the Campania region, is not just a style of cooking, it's practically a science. You've got to use 00 flour, which is finely milled to give the crust this soft, delicate, airy texture. Then a 24 to 48 hour slow dough fermentation so the yeast can really work its magic. And the sauce? No compromises here. It requires San Marzano tomatoes. These grow in the dry, volcanic soil of the south, making them incredibly sweet with very low acidity. Top all that with fresh buffalo mozzarella, blast it in a blazing hot wood-fired oven, and boom, it's hyper-local and it is absolutely perfect. Moving on to Section 2, the North versus South divide, and how climate shapes culture. It's fascinating because geography literally splits the country's cooking philosophy right in half. Up in the mountainous north, you're dealing with cold, harsh, long winters. Naturally, the food adapts to keep you warm, right? It's rich, it's slow-cooked, and it leans heavily on butter, cream, and these deeply savory stews. Think hearty polenta and creamy risotto. But travel down south, and you are in a completely different world. The southern climate gives you a warm, strong Mediterranean sun and dry volcanic soil. The food becomes simple, vibrant, light. Because the produce tastes so incredible on its own, cooks just rely on extra virgin olive oil, fresh tomatoes, garlic, and whatever fresh seafood they can catch. So you have the soul-warming, rich comfort of the chilly north up against the sun-drenched, ingredient-led simplicity of the south. Which brings us to Section 3, the great pasta debate. It's all about structure versus sauce. Okay, let's clear up a massive misconception right now. A lot of people think fresh pasta is universally better than dried, but the mechanics tell a totally different story. Northern fresh pasta, or pasta fresca, uses flour and eggs. It's soft, it's silky, and cooks in like 1 to 3 minutes. Its real superpower? It physically absorbs rich, buttery sauces like a sponge. Southern dried pasta, or pasta secca, on the other hand, uses absolutely 0 eggs, just durum wheat semolina and water. It takes longer to cook, giving it that firm, elastic al dente bite, and its superpower is that it releases starch gradually into the water, which is literally the secret to emulsifying and securely coating oil or tomato-based sauces, like a classic Roman carbonara. Seriously, if you try to make carbonara with fresh egg pasta, it just turns into a mushy, unbalanced disaster. So you might be wondering, which one is actually better, fresh or dried pasta? Well, if you're cooking like a true Italian, the answer is neither. One is absolutely not superior to the other. It is 100% about choosing the correct tool for the job. You would never put a delicate northern ragu on a rigid dried pasta, and you'd never use a soft fresh pasta for an emulsified southern oil sauce. It is all about respecting that regional tradition. To really drive this home, let's look at lasagna. The northern Bologna style uses delicate, thin, fresh egg pasta, often green from spinach. Elegantly layered with a slow-cooked ragu bolognese, a creamy bechamel sauce, and parmigiano. Notice anything missing? There is absolutely 0 mozzarella in there. It's balanced, it's refined. Meanwhile, the southern Naples style, it's an unapologetically generous feast. They use rigid, dried pasta sheets to hold up chunky Neapolitan ragu, massive amounts of ricotta, melted mozzarella, tiny meatballs, and get this, even hard-boiled eggs. It's built for celebration. Two completely different philosophies, both ridiculously delicious. Let's dive into Section 4, Kitchen of the Poor, or La Cucina Povera. La cucina povera literally translates to the kitchen of the poor. This is a traditional peasant cooking style that relies entirely on using whatever is available. It's about taking simple, everyday items from the pantry or the farm and treating them with such respect that they transform into incredible meals with absolutely zero waste. See, true Italian cooking isn't about expensive luxury or showing off. It is born from pure resourcefulness and a really deep respect for whatever the land provides. And to cook this way, you need a very specific arsenal. Having a well-stocked pantry with authentic staples allows any home cook to build massive, mind-blowing flavor out of practically nothing. We're talking cold-pressed extra virgin olive oil for sautéing and finishing, San Marzano tomatoes for that sweet, low-acidity base, dried semolina pasta for the perfect bite, Parmigiano Reggiano, the literal king of cheeses, for deep umami. Throw in some real balsamic vinegar from Modena, creamy cannellini beans, dried herbs like oregano and rosemary, and finally, anchovies. Wait, hear me out. Even if you think you hate anchovies, they literally melt away into sauces to provide this incredible savory depth of flavor without ever tasting fishy. These right here are your ultimate building blocks. But remember, local availability is the heart of cucina povera. Take olive oil, for example. Up in the northern region of Liguria, a staggering 98% of their olive production relies on just one single cultivar, the Tagliasco olive. Think about that. This specific olive creates a buttery, delicate, slightly fruity oil that totally defines the flavor profile of that entire region's food. You use what grows outside your window, and you master it. Finally, let's wrap up with Section 5, Anatomy of a Meal, and how to eat like a local. Now, it's important to clarify that everyday Italian life can actually be pretty fast-paced. A typical breakfast or colazione is often just a quick, strong espresso and a cornetto while standing at a cafe bar. And a normal weekday lunch or dinner might just be one simple dish. But when the weekend rolls around or during a holiday, the formal Italian feast is unleashed. And guys, it is a multi-hour, highly structured marathon of family, friends, and fantastic food. The structure of this formal feast is incredibly deliberate. Let's walk through it. You start around 7 p.m. with the aperitivo. Think a refreshing spritz or some prosecco with light snacks just to open the appetite. By 7:45, you move to the antipasto, which are cold starters like cured meats and cheeses. Then 8:30 rolls around and the hot food arrives with the primo, or first course. This is exclusively your heavy carbs, pasta, risotto, or maybe a soup. Now here is where a lot of visitors get confused. The pasta is not a side dish to the meat, they are strictly separated. Because at 9:15, you get the secondo, the main protein of meat or fish, served alongside a contorno, a vegetable side dish on its very own plate. This separation completely respects the distinct flavors of the starch and the protein. At 10 p.m., you cleanse the palate with formaggi e frutta, local cheeses and fresh seasonal fruit. And finally, at 10:30, you finish the whole shebang with dolce for dessert, a hot shot of espresso, and a digestivo like grappa or limoncello to help you digest that massive meal. It's honestly a beautifully orchestrated symphony of eating. As the Italian chef Vincenzo Prosperi brilliantly puts it, don't be a tourist, be a local. Understanding these regional nuances, knowing why a northern pasta uses eggs and a southern one doesn't, recognizing the power of pantry staples, and respecting the flow of a multi-course meal, that is the real key to experiencing Italian culture. You aren't just eating a meal, you're participating in a deeply rooted way of life. So, I'll leave you with this final thought. When you sit down to plan your next Italian dinner, ask yourself, are you in the mood for the deep, rich, slow-cooked comfort of the chilly north? Or are you craving the vibrant, ingredient-led, sun-drenched simplicity of the South? Whatever you choose, you now know exactly how to do it right. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and hey, happy cooking!